The teachings of Vedanta, which literally mean the end, the sum of the Vedas, spoken about frequently to refer to the Upanishads, although later it also started including other works as well. But typically Vedanta is the Upanishads, which are seen as the essence of the Vedas. So you don't have time to study all the Vedas. Okay, study the Upanishads. From the Upanishads has come this teaching of Vedanta. That's very simplistic, but it's enough for our purpose right now. In that teaching, the primary teaching is the teaching of Advaita. Now what Advaita, the original Advaita, as taught, as espoused, as brought across India by Sri Shankaracharya, was the teaching of oneness. So there is no two, because people had always been talking about me and God, worshiping God as separate from the self. So Sri Shankaracharya came in and said, no, there is one. Nothing but God. And it's important to distinguish that. We're not talking just about one God. So it's not that we've gone from many gods to one God. It's we've gone from a concept of God as something to which I pray to a concept of nothing but God. So there is no distinction between the devotee and the object of devotion. And in traditional Advaita, any sense of distinction is an illusion. So we speak and hear frequently about the concept of the wave in the ocean, that the wave is ultimately the ocean. But in the Advaita teaching, they would say the wave itself is an illusion. The fact that it looks different than the ocean is illusory. Not just that it's a temporary form, but actually it is an illusion. That's Maya. There is nothing but God. This divine presence has no attributes, all attributes, no form, no names, nothing. It is just the nameless, formless, attributeless existence. Then came in Vishishtadvaita, which was espoused and taught by a very great leader named Ramanujacharya. Same concept. We're still in the oneness of God. But Vishisht literally means unique. So it's oneness with unique qualities. So he took the teaching of Advaita and said, yes, there's nothing but God, but that God is not entirely attributeless. Rather, there are attributes of God. So there are waves on the ocean. The wave is the ocean. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It would be ludicrous for the wave to worship the ocean because the wave is ocean. And yet, the wave is an attribute of the ocean. So that's the Vishishtadvaita teaching, is oneness, nothing but God, but with attributes, with unique characteristics that are manifest in the myriad aspects of creation. Yes, we're all God, but we're embodying different attributes, all of which are of the same God. And the analogy that he gave is that in the same way that the soul is to the body, so is the infinite to the finite. So is God to us. So the body is nothing without the soul. Right? I mean, if we didn't have a soul, we'd no longer leave a body on the ground without a soul, and within a few minutes, hours, and days, it starts to be no longer a body. So in the same way that the body depends on the soul for its existence, so does the finite depend on the infinite. So does the wave depend on the ocean. If there were no ocean, there could no longer be a wave. So that's Ramanujacharya's Vishishtadvaita. Then we come into the teaching of Dvaita, which is the dualism. One other aspect, though, of the Vishishtadvaita is that he said it was, and this is why I like it, serving sort of as a bridge in between the two. He said that the way of knowing this truth, because of course neither of them was saying, oh, just read my books and learn what I'm saying. The emphasis is always, always, always on learn the knowledge inside, experience it. It must be yours. It must be your truth. It's not about read the books, learn the terms, pass the exam. It's about know it and live it. But where Sri Shankaracharya had emphasized Gyan Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, as the way of knowing this nothing but Godness, Ramanujacharya had emphasized Bhakti, devotion. So through devotion, we would come to understand the divine, not separate from us, of which we are an attribute. But I would discover that through devotion to God. Then we come into Dvaita, or dualism, rooted also in devotion. But devotion of a separateness. Now, it's very important to qualify that all of the dualists are all aware that at the fundamental level, it's all God. But with bhakti, with devotion, what there is an awareness that says, it is so beautiful. Yeah, I know I'm one with God. But it's so beautiful to love God, to worship Krishna with attributes that are different than mine. To be the lover of the beloved. And to have this thing called love between us. That's beautiful. And so the dualist path, the Dvaita path, is a path rooted in the love of God by the devotee. I'm sorry? Yeah, we're going into even more specific lineages that I'm not going to go into here, but yes, there's many different paths within the dualist tradition. There's many different paths, different ways of loving God, which we won't go into. But it's rooted in short in the concept of the lover and the beloved as being separate. That yes, we've been created by God. God, of course, is also in me. But the God that is out there is different. And that's why I'm able to love. It's not love of myself. It's not love of my soul. It's love of a distinct divine being. The love of whom brings me that state of liberation, that state of moksha, that state of samadhi. So it's a different way of attaining. And again, it's important, I'll end here, is whatever path we choose. Of these three, of a different one. is, because of course when we're talking about the yogic path, we have Jnana Yoga, we have Bhakti Yoga that we've talked about, we also have Karma Yoga, path of service. Whatever way we use, doesn't matter. What matters is we connect. And there's people for whom the concept of a nameless, formless, attributeless, divine, supreme existence, that's all there is the easiest way and the most powerful way for them to connect to God. For others, a path of devotion. And within that, different ways of devotion. But it doesn't matter. What matters is we connect. What matters is that we jump in to Ganga. Whether we jump from this god or that god, off the steps, off a rock, out of a raft, it doesn't matter. What matters is we connect. And all of the different schools of philosophy give us just innumerable different ways of connecting with the divine. Because ultimately that's the point. And in a way that I've seen unparalleled by any other spiritual tradition that I know of, the Indian tradition gives so many different possibilities for so many different characteristics of people that it's like there's no opportunity to say, oh, well, my nature's like this, so therefore I can't be spiritual, or therefore I can't connect to God. Because inevitably, there's going to be a path just right for you. There's going to be a way just right for you. And that's really what the point is all about.